I've played a lot of different ROM hacks, and Pokemon has a lot of different things to offer for you. But today I want to talk about a game that I think is hopefully unique in its approach, and that's going to be Pokemon Garbage Gold. So, Garbage Gold as a ROM hack is a bit different than the ones you're used to. Why? Because it is a Nintendo DS ROM hack. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, usually when you play Pokemon ROM hack games, they tend to be either Game Boy or they're made in RPG Maker and they're fan games, right? ROM hacks and fan games. There's a bit of a difference between them. However, there aren't many games that are made using the Nintendo DS ROM hacking system. And this is because decompiling and sort of working with that particular set of games is really difficult, which is why most ROM hacks that you do find, especially the ones that are based on generation 4 or 5, tend to have a bit of an issue, which is you can only really change the numbers. And what I mean by this is you can only really change some of the sprites that appear on the Pokemon, or you can only really change some very basic elements, like trying to make the game difficult, which is why you have a lot of difficulty hacks when it comes to Gen 5 and Gen 4. However, the hack we're taking a look at today is Garbage Gold, and Garbage Gold was the first, at least that's what they claim here, the first actual version of a ROM hack that actually changes everything. What we mean by this is that the story has been changed. Yes, Garbage Gold actually has a different story. We also have a change in maps in the world. And keep in mind, this game is 2.5D, so there are elements to it that are 3D, which they've been able to custom recreate and make different, which I think is honestly fantastic. So today we're going to be taking a look at different elements. We're going to take a look at the story, the gameplay, as well as other things that can be found in this game. So let's get started. First of all, the story of this game is a little bit goofy. It's called Garbage Gold after all, which means it is a bit of a shit hack. It's supposed to be a bit goofy and funny with the things it does, and one of these elements is that you only get offered a really bad starter in the game. Starting off your journey, you're gonna get garbage, and it's not even that where it ends. Throughout the game, every person you talk to is just gonna roast you. They're just gonna make fun of you, they're gonna roast you for having a bad Pokemon, for having a bad team, and for using bad teammates. And that's not all. The game is a little bit of a difficulty hack too. It does make the game a little bit more hard to play because you're only able to catch Pokemon that are relatively bad. You're not going to run into always the strongest of Pokemon. However, the story itself though does get pretty interesting. Basically, Darkrai is wreaking havoc, and there is even some relations here to specifically the Mystery Dungeon, like Explorers of Time, Explorers of Sky. There's a whole reference to that with Grovyle and whatnot showing up. So there's a whole story going on in the background that you get to take part of and actually enjoy. It's actually a really fun story, as well as these specifically almost like totem Pokemon, from, I guess, Generation 7 Sun and Moon, similar to that, or even Alpha Pokemon, which are basically enraged larger versions of Pokemon that will be really hard to battle, and they'll usually be shiny when you encounter them. However, you can't really capture them. You can try. The actual chance of capturing one is so freaking low that, honestly, it's not really going to be that easy. Also, gym leaders and stuff have changed. Instead of it being the usual way, it has been basically changed around, and instead of finding stuff in Kanto, you will not actually find anything there because the Kanto region has been destroyed because a war between Johto and Kanto took place, and Johto won. This means that all the gym leaders from there will instead be found spread throughout the Johto region in various locations. We can just have little simple battles against them. As for the regular gym leaders though, they will be acting a little bit differently. They'll be a little bit more extreme or rude or angry, and just generally more aggressive when you do run into them. Overall, the story is great. It does add some elements that I think are just goofy and fun, and I had a blast playing through the game as I was going through it, especially with the story there to kind of enhance the gameplay. Next, we have the actual gameplay. So see, here's one of the things about this game that I think is very interesting, which is the fact that the gameplay is basically Heart Gold Soul Silver. Yes, you have following Pokemon, you have the same kind of systems that function in the same way. Again, a lot of the elements that you can think of from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so really Gen 4, will be present here. They will work in a similar way, and they won't differ too much from what you're used to, which I think is great because keeping in line with what Heart Gold Soul Silver did so well, which was the gameplay, keeping it interesting with enough things to do, different elements surrounding the world, and overall keeping the battle system relatively the same, is good. Now, again, there are a few things missing. You're not going to find a lot of side quests necessarily. There are a few things you can do on the side. It's always not nearly that necessary to do, but you will find a lot of gauntlets and things that will kind of stop you along your way, and this game kind of more excels in the difficulty aspect, especially if you're trying to do a Nuzlocke on this. I'm going to tell you right now, it's very difficult. So like, I tried to do a Nuzlocke run and I kept failing at the first gym. Like, the first gym already becomes hard if you're trying to do it as a Nuzlocke, because the options of Pokemon you find can be a little bit of a variety along the way. However, you do have a lot of things in this game that do make Nuzlocks also relatively easy to do. A lot of Pokemon that get given away to you, which can be advantageous against the things you're about to battle, as well as the grass having changed Pokemon that you actually encounter. So yes, the encounters on routes will be different, making for a far more interesting situation. Nonetheless, though, it is still a ROM hack, so you will see a lot of, like, custom things added in. There aren't any Fakemon, as far as I remember. Instead, it is just a lot of inclusions of older Pokemon, so you will be seeing a lot of that as well. Now, speaking about some of the other features in the game, we do have brand new music in the game. So yes, there is actually some interesting Pokemon Mystery Dungeon music in here, which I think is pretty cool. And overall, there is just a variety of music that's being used in here to make it a different experience. But it doesn't end there. There's also other features that are included, like, for example, level caps, with some actual, like, you know, editing in here. They've been able to make it so that you will not be able to challenge gym leaders with over-leveled Pokemon. So basically, you cannot challenge them. Like, it is actually impossible to challenge someone if your level cap, you know, if you've exceeded the level cap on your Pokemon. Not just that, there are also town encounters, which, yes, this is what I meant earlier, but basically things that will make it easier for you to Nuzlocke the game by having actual encounters in every town in the grass. Like, if you go to a town, there will be an encounter in it. And if you guys know Nuzlocke rules, that means you're guaranteed to get a free encounter, because a new town is also considered a new route. And since there is some grass there, you can get a free extra Pokemon. And oftentimes these Pokemon will be strong against the gym leader. So that's great. There's also instant text for those of you who just don't really care about lore and story. You can just go through it very quickly if all you care about is just to get through it. So that is in here. It will just make the game much easier and faster to play through. Also, you can remove HMs, which, yes, that is good. You don't need to go to a move deleter. You can simply just get rid of it. You can get rid of, you know, cut, rock smash, whatever you want can be actually deleted off your Pokemon without too much trouble. But it doesn't end there. There's also a cap on your PP. So basically, every move now has a maximum of 10 PP, which is fine, but there's also some setup moves which will have even less, only 1 to 2 PP per one of those setup moves. So, I don't know, Stealth Rocks, for example, will have less options for you to actually be used. So you can't really abuse that in the game. You can't really use that to your advantage too much, but it doesn't end there though. There's also Chanseys that will be spread around the map, which will serve as heal points, and more or less that kind of summarizes some of the features. Like I said, this game has a lot to offer. You get a interesting story. It's a brand new story. You'll team up, like I said, with Grovyle and Celebi from Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky to uncover a bunch of interesting things happening. There's also a whole changed overworld map. Like I said, there's interesting places to fully explore, right? You got the Western Tundra, the Waterfall Cave, you got the Kanto Wastelands, the Dark Crater. There's a lot of this kind of stuff we can go and explore, which normally isn't there. There's also new enemy trainers, learn sets, as well as encounters for you to go ahead and actually deal with. And like I said, there's also a gauntlet. So there's these gauntlets that'll be similar to the ones found in Garbage Green, which are kind of spread out throughout the map before you get to certain important areas, which will limit you in what you have as options when you take them on, and then you have to battle and beat a bunch of trainers in a row. Generally speaking, the game is pretty interesting, and like I said, it is a difficulty hack, so you're going to have horrible starters, Weedle, Caterpie, and Kricketot, and generally speaking, you're going to have a struggle. But I'm going to be honest, I think it's a worthwhile game to play. I have played it, I have finished it. I decided to make a little showcase video on it instead of a full-fledged actual playthrough, because I didn't know if you guys wanted to see that, but I thought it'd be fun to just cover it like this. And hey, if you guys want to check this game out, feel free to join our Discord, as I'll be linking it there. Also, if you want to find it on your own, I'd highly recommend going to Poke Community, where you can find the post by Sosea TTA, who created the game. So simply go there if you guys want to have your hands on this game, because I think it's worth it. I think it's a great game, I think it's a fun game, and I think it's a unique game. Outside of all the other elements of it, which, yes, there are a few bugs and glitches, I'm not going to lie. There are moments where I got fully stuck in the game and I had to replay whole segments just because the game froze and glitched out. But I don't know if I should really blame the ROM hack for that, or if I'm actually going to just instead blame that on the big baddie that is Game Freak, who basically programmed in a DRM system that kind of makes it so that any sort of ROMs of Heart Gold Soul Silver kind of just end up breaking the game whenever they're used in an emulator. Don't know why they did that. I guess it's just for anti-piracy. But overall, though, this is a great ROM hack. I think you should play it. It's a fun experience, and it's just different. So give it a shot. Check it out. Again, go to our Discord if you want to go and find it, or go to Poke Community. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.